today with a little story about it was a couple years ago, maybe even that would have been 2018. I guess it's about 3 years ago now. 2018. So I was invited to go to the Philippines for a thing called the Filipino Conference on New Evangelization. And so I was invited to go to that conference with some people down in LA. One of the ladies there is worked in the diocese. She's Filipina, and then there was a group of us going, and they invited me to go along. And so we went over and participated in the conference, and also we met one family, a beautiful family there, the Santos, and they're involved with something called the Couples for Christ. And actually, Joel, the father, is actually he's actually the director for the Couples of Christ in China, actually. So, and he goes over pretty often, and there's like 5,000 members in China, which is an impressive number. But anyway, so it happened to be that they invited us one evening to dinner, and so we didn't realize it, but it was actually kind of a special occasion. I think it was the mother's, Erica's, I believe maybe it was her birthday or something. We didn't realize it, but they said, "Hey, you want to come out to dinner with us?" And so we were there in Manila they took us on a wharf there, and having this lovely fish dinner. And I remember I ended up sitting next to Justin and Jeremy, and he's about 17 years old, and he was involved with Youth for Christ, and talking with Justin. And then I remember after the dinner, we were about to leave, and Justin he says, "I'm awesome." I'm awesome. And it kind of struck me, okay, well, you can be whatever, you can be whatever you want to be. If you want to be awesome, okay. And it kind of just struck me that he had that sort of natural confidence and natural good feeling about himself. And it was something just very simple in that one way. It wasn't, he felt good about himself. And it kind of struck me. And it was actually kind of a moment. I remember I started thinking about that. And I says, well, maybe we don't think we're awesome enough. Maybe we should be thinking that we are more awesome, that in the sense of in God's eyes that we're awesome. And if we understand how awesome we are in God's eyes, then that actually strengthens us. It actually gives us more interior strength. So it gives us more strength to do the good things that we're called to do, because we understand that we are precious in God's eyes. We are awesome. And to be able to say that himself, I am awesome in God's eyes. I think that's a beautiful conviction and a beautiful something that strengthens us. So some of the things that could drag us down in this life, we don't feel so attracted. They don't have the same pull on them, because we say, no, I'm awesome in God's eyes. I'm made for something better than that. And so it's interesting. That was kind of a revelation for me. And then I came back, and I was in Santa Rosa at the time, and I went to the Barnes and Noble. There's a big, beautiful kind of Barnes and Noble downtown in Santa Rosa on 4th Street. And I was in their old style bookstore, and has all kinds of books in the coffee shop. And I was just walking around there, and there was a book that says, the title was "You Are a Badass and How to Assume Your Awesomeness." Whoa. I took a picture of it, and I sent it to Justin saying, "Hey, I think, did you write this book?" I think he wrote the book. So I looked at the cover of it, and then I found out I was I do a thing called Scribd, which it works well for me, but it's books by subscription. It's kind of like the equivalent of, for books, what Netflix is for films. So you pay, I think it's only $8.99 a month, but you pay an $8.99 subscription. You got access to a lot of books and audiobooks, and so there it was available. And so I started listening to this book. And so it's a self-help book, but I was kind of saying, wow, a lot of these things that this lady is saying could be applied to as in a Christian perspective. I mean, there's nothing really antithetical to what she's saying, I thought, to what a Christian spiritual life. And it was somebody who, she had actually kind of tried different books herself, different methods, and then found her own system. I mean, that kind of worked. And then she wrote about it. But it was just a few simple principles of And I think they're so important, like living in the present moment, that you're always better living in the present moment rather than the past or the future. Um, have quiet time each day, have it set out apart each day for some quiet time in your life, have a sense of spirituality, have a positive outlook on things, try to see a more positive view of what's happening or what the, and be generous. You know, those are kind of was like the five, I think, basic things that she was saying that all kind of came back to those fundamental elements. And so, again, I was talking about yesterday about living in water and not realizing the water, and perhaps living in God and not really seeing God because he's so present. It's not a lack of his presence, but he's surabundantly present. He's over, and so he's so present that it becomes, it's almost, it's like air that we appreciate him, but we don't really appreciate him, and we don't really. So, but I'm wondering, why aren't we more receptive? What are the reasons why we're not more receptive to what the good things that come from around the world, and why aren't we more receptive? And so I think it comes a bit about back to the fear factor, what I would call the fear factor. I think there's a bit of an element of we're on our guard. We go through our life on our guard. And so that's a bit of a defensive mechanism that we want to protect ourselves, and that's natural and normal. But it also, as you see, protecting yourself can also eliminate things that maybe aren't always negative. And so again, if we understand our awesomeness before God. I'm not talking about, being prudently cautious in certain situations where it's obvious that this is a situation where I should be prudently cautious at night or in certain places. But I'm saying, in general, if you're appreciating nature or in spaces, and to say, well, I'm just here to absorb the nature that's here. I'm absorb it without guards, without selectivity, without just to openly receive it. I think that actually comes from a place within us. If we feel strong, if we feel like we're strong in God, if we feel like I think our receptivity factor is higher. We have a greater capacity to receive because of the strength that we receive from God. And so, because the other direction is, and I felt that we kind of go through life. We go through life. It's just natural that we're in kind of survival mode. I think that's kind of our nature. I don't know if that's too severe of an expression, but you grow up as a baby and you're learning about, well, this is hot, it's going to hurt me. This is, if I do something, bad, I'm going to be punished. So what? There's this survival mode of saying, and also I think as we go through life, we're concerned about covering the basic necessities. It's kind of a natural thing that we want to cover our necessities, and we need an income, we need a job, we need transportation, we need I don't know. Father Asinius is calling me 3 times here. I don't know if this is maybe an emergency thing. I probably, sorry.
Okay.
It's kind of, sorry. I don't know why he's calling me 3 times. Are you there, Bob? Bob? I guess I'm still there, but anyway.
Yeah, you're there, Father. I'm sorry. I had to unmute myself.
Okay. So back to, I don't know why he calls me 3. He could text me if it's, anyway. Normally he texts me, so here I'm getting 3 calls from him.
Yeah.
So yeah, so back to where the fear factor in our lives. Are we? I'm afraid of Father Arsenio. I guess I don't know. It is real. I'm not just. But anyway, so that's It's just, are we? What's keeping us from being receptive to the world around us? And that's one thing that comes to mind is, and I mean, I notice myself when I'm going in, I've mentioned this in a few sermons, to go into a place for like a restaurant or a grocery store or whatever, and I'm kind of like scoping it out. I'm kind of feeling like, well, keeping my distance, or kind of like I'm not really as being as open maybe as I should be to the other people there and their concerns, their needs. If I'm seeing this, really living in the Spirit of God, I think if I go into a place, I should be looking around and appreciating the people that are there, and appreciating each one and what they're about. And so I think that's a more spiritual. A defensive way is just like, I just want to have my meal, I just want to be here, I just want to be in myself, I don't want to be, have anything to do with anybody else. You see how you got your blinders on there, and I think you can actually go through life with blinders on. That's what I'm saying, is that's what we can go through life with blinders on, and we're not really picking up on what the beauty that's around us, and what's happening. So again, I for me, it's something very beautiful and very important, is how we understand our own awesomeness in the eyes of God. And it's not anything less than that. That's not an exaggeration to say that I am awesome in God's eyes, and to say that, and to own that, and to appreciate that. We to own that, to say. And so yeah, it's not, and that's not prideful, because it's not like we're comparing ourselves like, oh well, I'm awesome and everybody else are just dingbats, or I'm awesome and they're all just, why aren't you as awesome as I am, why aren't you, it's not like saying you all are, I'm intelligent, you're stupid, it's not like that. Because I think when we actually, that's a lot of times that's coming from an interior weakness. Actually, when we think we look down upon other people's, it's actually a sign of our own weakness. When we can look up to other people, it's because we feel strong in ourselves. And so that is actually coming from our strength. And so really, it's something, owning our own awesomeness in the eyes of God is really understanding that every person is precious, every person is significant, everybody has their own role to play, and everybody has a particular part to play in this whole drama that is our world. And again, that's also, I think that's important as well for us to see that, we're called to be saints, but we're called to be the saints that we're called to be. We're not called to be, if we give the examples of saints, are there, there's heroic actions, and there's great things that they've done, and all that, and that's fine. And sometimes I know, being in the monastic order, in the Carthusian order, I had my own confessor and professor and spiritual father, and he was more of a historian. So he was kind of saying, oh yeah, well, there's a bit of a fluff in those lives of saints. Sometimes he was kind of saying that, not to be a poo-poo, but because a lot of the saints, it was a religious order that wanted them, they founded an order, and it was great, and then they would want them to be canonized to continue their work. And so they're really showing the qualities of the person, but they're maybe not showing so much the weaknesses or their battles, or even sometimes they wouldn't even want to show, even if it's a battle. And it was kind of a scandal when it came out. Think of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, it came out, about her, the talking, here was this great spiritual figure, a very holy lady, and just such an example of a 20th century saint. And finding that she had a great deal of dryness in her spiritual life. She didn't really feel loved by God. She felt like she was abandoned by God. She felt like that she was maybe even rejected by God. So she went through a long period of her life where she was feeling like she was rejected by God. And that's the thing that that's almost like a scandal to us. It's almost something like, well, let's not talk about that, because that's not the way things, that's not the picture we want to present here. So you see that, but it doesn't take away that. Almost in a proper sense, that should even make us even admire more her holiness and not less. But it's not always properly understood, and so my point is that, if the day-to-day life of the saints, or the day-to-day of life, and perhaps not only the ones who are canonized and have books written about them, but the saints that are in heaven, are people who are just going through their day-to-day life and doing the best they can each day, and growing, really growing in that sanctity, and growing in that. And I mean, myself, I see it as something that just builds up in us. I think that it's something year by year, going by having a grateful heart, having a spirit of gratitude, having a spirit of generosity, that just, it's ideally that should grow with each year, and it should be something that's, beautiful, and becomes more precious as we go on. I think Marianne maybe can attest to that. I think you're somebody that seems to be so positive and appreciate so many good things about the world and people, and it's just something that I think that's something that's years of experience. That's years of experience of working the faith. And I'm sure, as a mother of 7 kids growing up, it wasn't easy. And I mean, of course it was, and you're pulled in all different directions, and just trying to keep the family together, and just trying to keep on top of things. And then, then as a grandmother, and maybe the last 20 or 25 years up here, it's been more of a time to be able to reflect on your life, and to practice the faith. But all that, it builds up, all those things build up, and that's all, it carries over from year to year to year. So we it's something that's and that's being the saint that we're called to be. It's not being the saint martyr of, not even a Saint Thomas More, who, I mean, that's a pretty fabulous life. There's a lot of human side to Saint Thomas More, which people like, but also a very courageous side. But we're not all called to have our heads, cut off, or, fortunately. But I mean, we're not even called to go to Azerbaijan. I mean, that's, that's like, I know, with the people out at the Lord's Land, Nathan and Cindy, they felt that was their call as a young couple, to go to Azerbaijan. And they lived there for 14 years. And they were, and it was even a situation where they're basically teaching English in schools. But they lived there. They adopted a young Natik, their son, who's now a senior, which just finished high school, but they adopted a young boy as well, and they have their own children. But that's somebody, that's local people that did that. They felt that was their call, and so that's what they did. But so we're not all called to do the same things in this world, in this life. There are people who do that, but it's the question of what, living our own life, and navigating and making the best of all that's given us. That's really the wisdom, is making the best of what we're here to do, here and now, and not be so concerned about, not be so concerned about the future, not be so concerned about what people think about us, not be concerned about, let go of the past. I mean, and again, it's that strength, that I think there's that strength that comes back to that strength that comes from God, as being awesome in the eyes of God. It doesn't matter what people think about us, because our validation, our affirmation comes from God. So we don't have to worry about what other people think about. It's not that we, want to be diffident or careless with other people, but no, it's just that we're not. On the other hand, we're not dependent upon them either, because we say our strength comes from God. So those, I think, and in this, as I mentioned, I consider this retreat as the life of prayer. The life of prayer. It's how we live our life so that it is conducive to prayer. That's what I think is the most important theme. And so again, today, this morning, this topic is on the understanding how that we are awesome in God's eyes, that we are precious in God's eyes. We are the children of God, the sons and daughters of the Father. And so we are, that is something that we we should understand, we should own, and that also that it comes back to the intimacy that having a father in heaven, or having someone, and if having someone there who is a loving person that's concerned about us and loves us, a God that loves us. And so we find our strength there. And then hopefully in our own prayer life that translates into that knowing that we're loved and beloved by God. When we close our eyes and we remain in that love, it's that what we know in our mind to be true, we hopefully have some experience of that, some peace, some serenity, some tranquility in that moment. And it's so, and again, when we do have that confidence in God's love with us, it also gives us the strength to abandon ourselves, to let go. So we're not clinging to things that we might feel like are important to our lives. We're not clinging to having control over our lives, having control over the future or situations. We're able to let go and abandon and just release ourselves into that love. So that's that's the essential that I have to say today. We could open up. Hopefully, I always wonder if what I'm saying is getting across. I can say words, but I don't know what's hitting and missing. I don't know what's affecting you or not affecting you. What's clear and what's unclear. Maybe some feedback would be good. Is there things that you not so clear, or things that you may feel or feel difficulty with? Maybe something I made is presented as something that I find that is true, but you say, well, that's not my experience of what is happening here. So I don't know if there's anybody wants to.
What's your definition of awesome?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, okay, awesome. But the literal definition is what creates awe. That's the literal. Awesome means it's something. It means that it would be awe-inspiring. But awe means really, I think it goes as the way I understand it. I'm not sure. I haven't looked this up in dictionaries, but awe means like almost actually has the sense of, your mouth is open, you're like in a state of stupor, and you're just in a state of awe where you're this is overwhelming. It's like awe, that's what you basically say, awe, because it's so overwhelming. And so something that happens that is full of that means it's awesome. It's like, there's other, trying to think of another word that there's words that have some in them.
I thought of fearfully and wonderfully made as
Yeah.
another way of saying
Saying
you're
it.
awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
Because
And-
it makes that God made us that way. It's not something we did ourselves.
Yeah. Fearful. You're in fear. It's fearful and wonderful, and it's full of fear, and that just that because it's so great that you only have maybe a sight of that. It's almost you tremble before that, but also you're in a sense of wonder.
Yeah, it's like too much to grasp.
Yeah. But so I think when Justin used it, awesome, he's saying I know if the younger generation, anything that's good, anything that's great, it's awesome. It's just like anything. So it is kind of a general word, but it's basically a basic affirmation that this is a good thing. This is a great thing. This is, it's awesome. Awesome, because it's, I don't know. Somebody, I don't know, maybe did something good, that they won the basketball game. Oh, that's awesome. So it's great. It's good. So great is magnitude, awesome. So, but the true sense is the sense of awe. But basically in this, when he says, I am awesome, it's just like, I'm great. I'm good. I'm essentially good. I'm worthy. I'm great. I'm good. I'm awesome. I can do things, so I think it's basically, in that sense, I think it's really about being affirmed by God. It's just like God affirms you. God is affirming you, and because of your unique nature, really.
Seems like almost like a prideful thing to say that.
That's the thing is, I know, and that's what I first thought about. I first thought, well, that's kind of, you're a little haughty, you're a little, like uppity person, but then I was thinking, well, that's what kind of came to mind is maybe we don't think that we're awesome enough. And actually, it's again, there's a false sense, I think, of humility in just thinking you can't do anything. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a false sense of humility in saying, well, oh, I'm humble, so I can't do anything. And then the least temptation comes by and you're swept away. Well, that's not really, that doesn't really help things, and is that really even humility? It's more like a sort of, it's like, well, I forget the word, but it's somebody who doesn't really have any strength or doesn't have any, it's like more of a morose state, really. I mean, but so awesome. But again, it would be prideful if you felt like that came from yourself. See, so it would be prideful if you say, well, I'm awesome because of who I am, because of my accomplishments, because of what I, my intelligence, because of my strength, because of my athletic prowess. That's, and you see that as coming from you, well, that's prideful. But if you think about, no, this is, I am awesome in God's eyes. So I guess, I don't know, I mean, it was interesting because he's a simple fellow and into, I don't know exactly what, I'm not exactly 100% sure what sense he said that in. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. So but it just kind of struck me because here's a young guy, a great fellow, and he just seemed to say it so naturally that it made me it just triggered something and saying, well, I would think normally that's kind of prideful, but here is that maybe that we need to think, everybody needs to think that they are more awesome in God's eyes, in the sense that when you think that you're awesome in God's eyes, that means that it's like you're called to a higher level. It's like you're expected to do things in a certain way because that's part of your nature. So it's not like if you feel like, oh, well, you're just nothing. Well, then why make efforts? If you'll never amount to anything. Oh, you'll never amount to anything. That's a horrible thing for a parent to say. Oh, you'll never amount to anything. Well, what's it going to be? It might even be worse than nothing. It might be bad things they do, because maybe that's where they want to prove themselves. But oh, you'll never amount. That's horrible. But no, I mean, it's that. And again, it's prideful if the parents say, oh, well, yeah, you're the greatest thing that ever happened to the universe. I mean, that's, you're just so perfect in every little thing. You can do no wrong. We'll make it right, whatever you do. No, I mean, that's false as well. But to say no, that to grow up saying no, you are a child of God. God loves you, and that's something that's not for nothing. And he made you to be the way that you are, and he wants you to be this way, and he wants you to do the best that you can with what you've been given. See, I mean, that's
I have trouble thinking it. I have trouble with that because how am I to think if God thinks I'm awesome? That doesn't seem right.
He does.
He
He went
does.
to all
He
the
loves
trouble
us.
to make you exactly the way he made you. He made your eyes exactly the way. He made your fingerprints. He made every single on your head. You don't think he just did that? Like he did it
Just-
on purpose with love.
You weren't made by a machine. It's not like you just
and
stamped
then
out
the
like.
cookie cutter thing, he didn't make a mistake. He made no mistakes about you. Every single part of you, he chose to make that way. And that is just so, isn't that so
Awesome.
cool? It is. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
He never will make another Marion.
Yeah,
He never made one before. And out of all the billions and billions of people,
yeah,
he took the time
That's a
and the
good way of
effort
putting
and the
it.
love to make exactly you.
that
Yes,
is
you
pretty
are.
awesome.
There's nothing prideful about it at all. It's all his, you know, you don't have to put yourself into the equation. You can, like you said, to be all that God created you to be.
Yeah,
But just the fact that he created you makes
Yeah.
you awesome.
yeah, that's good. Point. Thank you.
Yeah, as I have become closer with God and having a relationship as well, coming to mass, receiving the Holy Eucharist, letting go and letting God, is the more that I have been able to abandon myself, I'm able to feel God's strength upon me. And as I feel God's strength upon me, I feel like he is my physician. He is my God. He is my healer. I feel healthy, body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah.
And I'm able to share that and plant that seeds. Like we don't need to, and that awesome part, like you guys were sharing, it's like, yes, once we turn ourselves over and abandon to him, we're able to see that awesomeness, the difference of who we were before and what we have become. being under him and just allowing him to cleanse us from our body, top of our head to the soles of our feet. And I just feel like the healthiest I've ever been felt ever. And even if I'm going through ailments, it's like he has set me free.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful aspect. And I think it's all those things that are tied together, because it is understanding that you are special in God's eyes, each individually, not and awesome in God's eyes, and then feeling that the strength that comes from him as being someone who is worthy of God, and then feeling that sense of, because there's not fear, then you're in a state of abandon. And then also that abandon, I mean, for me as well, these moments of deep silent prayer, they become essential to me, because I can't really function if I don't have some time each day where I can just go close into myself and just be in that moment. And I also feel that I've always felt it's very therapeutic, just that it is healing to ourselves, to our soul and our body and our senses. It's kind of like it's almost like a reboot, you're just getting back into your original sense. I think there's a kind of the original, it's a kind of in your original being, in the sense that you can kind of let go of all the stuff that maybe is accumulated, or whatever, the knocks you received, or maybe the bad reactions you've had, or whatever, but you just kind of get back to a sense of rebooting to who you are.
It's not feeling better than anybody, but it's feeling better than who I was.
Right. And then I think even you naturally kind of have a sense of wanting everybody to experience that. That's what my experience is. Can everybody experience this, Lord, or can everybody be touched by this? And that's that wanting to include everybody.
Yeah, like where you were saying that not everybody, we are not all called to do the same things. So we all each have a special calling that we can share, and some people will be able to receive it and magnify and all that stuff. But
each in its own person.
so I do believe that abandoning yourself is very powerful.
I have a problem with feeling awesome, but when I'm listening to Father Mike Schmitz, The Bible in the Year, and he defined being in awe of God as, taking him very seriously. You're taking God very seriously. And maybe God seeing us as awesome is saying, I take you very seriously, everything you do. And I can look at it that way. Like he's taking seriously what I do and what I don't do, but he is taking me very seriously. Because I can't say like, well, I think I'm awesome, or there's something about me that's awesome, or I get more into like, well, what I don't do. Or more like my sinful nature. And so like, how could he think I'm awesome? But I can accept that he would say, no, I'm taking seriously what you're doing, what you're trying to do. And paying attention to you.
Exactly. And that's that's perfectly the sense, because it's not like, oh, well, I'm awesome, so that covers up all these bad things I'm doing. No, it's not like, oh, I'm awesome, so because I'm so awesome that I can do all these other little things and God isn't gonna. No, it's because he takes us seriously, and it's a responsibility that we have, because it's really that we're awesome, so we're called to greatness. But it's not in the sense of publicity greatness. It's just realizing our what we're meant to be. And so and also that each person, that's so much, he is our Father. He's the Father of each and every one of us, and that's that unique relationship. So you matter to them. So that's basically saying you are also awesome. You matter to God, and so what you do matters to him. And so it's not just like him looking at, oh yeah, there's this blue marble down there, and I've just got all these little ants on it, and those are people, and it's just they're running around. No, it's a much more intimate, deep relationship, and he's always there to be there. And some people are more open to that than others, but he's always wanting to be there and to help. There's a beautiful thing. So again, it just comes back. A couple who go to Elk normally, John and Mary Alice Bastian, I had mentioned the Lord's Land once, and they said, well, they were in a Starbucks, and there were some young people there, and the young people came up and gave them, they gave me some of these cards. So it's just like a little business card, and then you turn it over, and it says 2 words, you matter. You matter. That's what they were just, so it's just those two words, expressed there. You matter. You it's not like you're just a nothing. Or,
Yeah.
just a something. You matter. And so you matter to others, you matter to God, you matter, your life makes a difference. And it's not just to think that we don't matter or we won't account to anything, no, it's every person matters. And so again, it's a good point. Thanks for bringing that out and more clearly that it's what we do matters to God, and and if we are awesome, that calls us to be more attentive to those things, to be more delicate with God in that sense. And it doesn't mean that we're just, we're great, and so he's not going to see the bad things we do because we're so pretty or so whatever. But yeah.
Well, I like the idea that he's paying attention to what you do. I mean, like your children, I always try, always relate it to my own kids or my grandkids, or like how I feel about them. They matter to me.
Right.
It doesn't really, if they do something wrong or if it's, something I don't like, they still matter to me.
Right.
Everything they do matters to me.
Even if you told them not to do it and they did it, they still matter to you.
Exactly. But I mean, I think in terms of that whole thing, this is how I am with people I love. I matter to God, even if I'm
Way more.
misbehaving.
Right. And
You know,
he loves
not
you so much
measuring up.
more than us humans can love
Yeah.
the people that we love.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So beautiful. And it goes I mentioned this more than once, but it rings, it's something that seems so important, or so true and so important. But there's up at the University of Washington at Seattle, there's a psychology department program. It's gone on for like 30 or 40 years now, where they study couples, and it's like psychology in the relationship for couples. And it's very interesting because you would think they've got it down. The guy that's been doing this in like the first 30 seconds, he can see, they just have couples come and talk to each other, and he knows in 30 seconds whether it's going to succeed or not, their relationship. And one of the things is what the most ironic thing is, it's not because you might think it's the people that are arguing and bickering all the time. Well, it's not that. It's when there's indifference, when they're totally indifferent to one another. And one person says one thing and they don't care. So you see, when they're quarreling, it's because the other person matters. See, when people are arguing and bickering, it's because it actually matters what they have to say. But when you're beyond that and says, well, I don't care what you do, I'm just, the indifference is actually worse than quarreling, because when there is that quarrel, it does matter what the other person is doing or saying. So it matters to you. So again, to think that we matter to God is important.
I think we too are the message. The way we are is the message we give to the world. And
So that's what I'm hoping, because that's why I tell, we have a largely advanced age parish here. And I'm saying, I hope you're the message to your kids and grandkids, because I'm hoping that they're seeing in you and saying, well, hey, grandma's got it together. Grandma's just so peaceful and happy. And maybe at a certain moment that will affect in their life and say, well, hey, grandma she loved her faith, but she also was peaceful and happy and joyful. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's something to that.
Father Andre has in his sacristy, before we go in to have mass, and it always has caught my attention. It's a little piece of that he has written right there beautifully, and it says, "As you decrease, I will increase." And it's pretty powerful. I was like, wow, as you're praying and getting ready, and it's just those four words: "As you decrease, I will increase."
It's from St. John the Baptist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
It's got that right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's feast day, right?
It touched me. I was like, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and you're right. It's good to think.
Before you're
praying, and
it's right
before
there.
Mass, a priest to think. Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
to think
right
it's
there,
it's
right
not about
there.
me. It's about
Uh-huh.
God here. It's not about what Jesus trying to be. Yeah. So
And I just read that they set that date because it's 6 months away from Christmas. And so Jesus is born when the light is getting bigger and bigger every day. And John is when the light is getting less and less
Yeah.
every day. And I thought, wow, that's really, what a great
Yeah.
symbolism, because that was always his thing. I must decrease while he
Yeah,
increases.
yeah.
Isn't that
Well, we-
cool?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's beautiful. Yeah, I was just,
Yeah,
we
it
were-
touched me. big
we were
time to
looking
see
at
that.
last night Jenny, we were looking here, we saw it through the trees, but there's a magnificent sunset. I don't,
Oh,
and really
nice.
bright one. And someone had just posted this morning, but it was like they on the solstice, I mean, the 21st, the solstice each, and then they showed, it was just like 12 months going down. It's like the same picture with the sunset each time.
Oh.
And you could see, because I say, Jenny says, oh, you must see that all the time. I said, I don't know if we see it quite like that. And this wasn't here, but you can see, obviously, there's certain moments where you've got a big, bright sun, and others where you've got just a smaller sun. So
Mhm.
I do think that was pretty spectacular last
Well,
night.
that's pretty
As far as,
neat.
and like you say, now it's going to be
Right.
going
we're
down,
past the
and
peak.
it's going to be, yeah. So, yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we try now a moment? I'd like to try the format of prayer that we had proposed yesterday, and that for Father Brian. And so we'll just go through that and spend a few moments in prayer, and then maybe I'll give you a little meditation on what I'm experiencing, but and we can so we're here together in this sunroom, in this light, airy place here together. We've had this beautiful sharing here about God and his role in our life and how we matter to him and how that's important. And so here we are, and we're sitting in a relaxed position. We want to be open and attentive, and so we just let ourselves relax and breathe. Breathe in the good, breathe out the bad, and just take a couple breaths. And then we're going to address God. Each person here address God in the words that you appreciate. I mean, the title or the name of the Lord, or Jesus, or Father, or Abba, or Holy Spirit, or so we appreciate his presence here, and we. If there's anything we have on our hearts that we want to bring now to him, if we want to something, we pray for Norma's brother who's suffering from cancer. There, we pray for Pat's granddaughter who's having health issues, and we pray for her. We pray for community of Albion that's lost another one of their members in a tragic way, and for all those around the world. And so we bring those to our prayers, and all the personal things that we might want to bring there. And we bring that to this moment of prayer. And then we give thanks to God for so many blessings, just to have this little community that we have here at St. Anthony's, and the fellowship and the strength we find in one another, and the beauty of being in this beautiful place that God has created here. And we want to appreciate his beauty and his artistry, and bring that back to him. And also and to always give thanks as well for these things, and the blessings, the good things we've received in our lives. And so we're loving children that want to thank God, and also to praise him for his beauty, his glory in our lives. So spend a few minutes now in our own hearts, just praising the Lord, praising God, and offering up our own praises to the Lord as we spend this moment in prayer and silence. I hope you all are feeling embraced by God's love, just an ocean of love that embraces us, surrounds us, that fills the air, fills our soul, fills our life, that silence, peace, serenity, and just in the love that God embraces us, that goes beyond words and takes us and brings us deeper into Him, and that we just follow with a loving abandon, knowing that He's there to love and receive us. He cares for us and embraces us with His love. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Father.
So hope you have a
Thank you, Father. Thank you. Father.
prayerful day.
Oh,
Amen.
Thanks, Father.
I'll give you a praise report on our grand girl. She's
Okay.
doing fine.
pardon?
I said I'll give you a praise report on our grand.